in Tehillim number 3. Now, Tehillim number 3 is unbelievable. It's the drama of King David's flight from Avshalom, his second oldest son. You know, David HaMelech had many sons, but there were 5 sons that were aspiring to be kings. Yeah? And this is his second son, Avshalom. And this was very traumatic. This was in the 65th year when David HaMelech was 65. You know, that's at the end of his life. So you would ask, the first question we have to ask, why is it put in Tehillim in the beginning? Why is it in the beginning here? You know, if it happened at the end of his life, you should put it at the end of the Tehillim. Right? So the placing of this chapter, the very beginning of Psalms, it presents a problem, right? which is magnified by the fact that we find Tehillim dealing with David's early life at the end of Tehillim. So it's all mixed around. So one of the explanations is that the Talmud says, Rabbi Elazar said, that the portions of the Torah, of the Tanakh, were recorded without sequence. Right? That this, and Rashi brings this, En mukdam u'meuchar b'Torah. There's no sequence in the Torah. There's no time in the Torah, before and after. It's like beyond time. Why is it beyond time? Because if we would know exactly the time, and everything would be in time, even though in our minds, you know, because we are creatures that we live in time. We live in time of past, present, and future. Nevertheless, so we think, we try to place them in our minds, this is how it happened, this is when it happened. But it's not true at all. They happened in different times. You know? So if we would know the sequence, then the person would have had the power to perform miracles, to revive the dead. You know, meaning to say that the secrets would be revealed of how to manipulate nature and produce life. Right? And the Talmud didn't want that, and Chachamim didn't want that. They wanted to keep it, you know, within nature. So the wisdom would have been open if we would have seen everything how it fits in chronological order. That's right. That's one of the. Another of the answers is because, you know, what did we discuss in the first Tehillim? Number 2. Number one was the reward and the punishment for man. Number 2 was the war of Gog and Magog, right? How the nations, they are gathering against Israel. Remember that? That was the theme, right? They were all gathering against Israel. They want to destroy Israel, right? So you know. So then it says, the Talmud says, if a person should ask themselves, is it possible that the nations can really? I mean, a nation like Iran, you know, they believe in God. It's not a nation that doesn't believe in God. In fact, they believe in the same God. They believe in one God. You know. That's how close it is. So they think that a slave can rebel against his master. They think that that the world can rebel against Israel, even though in many places in the Quran it says that we are the chosen people. Even though in many places in the Quran it says that, you know, we are the chosen of God. And Israel belongs to us, to the Jewish people. Hashem gave it to Abraham. It says that. They don't have a notion about Holy Land. The war with the Arab nations is not about land. They want to make it about land. They say, the Palestinians say, we were there before. So now it's ours. Right? That's the first Rashi. The first Rashi in Bereshit. It's the first Rashi in Bereshit. Bereshit bara Elohim et hashamayim ve'et haaretz. Amar Rabbi Yitzchak, why did the Torah start with Bereshit? So Rashi says, if the nations will tell you, you Jews, you stole the land of Israel. Why? Forget about the Palestinians. They were the real people that were there, were the Canaanim, the Canaanites, the 7 nations. If anybody comes and says to you, you stole the land from them. Right? What gave you the right to do that? So you can say to him, Bereshit bara Elohim et hashamayim ve'et haaretz. God created heaven and earth. He created it, it's his. He gives it to the one that he feels he wants to give it to. He gave it to Abraham, because Abraham was his true servant. And Hashem said, I give you this land for you and your descendants. That's the first one. But the Palestinians don't say God gave us this land. It's in the Quran. No. The Crusades, when they came and they slaughtered the Moors in Jerusalem, and they overtook Jerusalem, they didn't say God gave us this land. They say Jesus died there, he was resurrected there, he lived here, so we want to be here, we want to protect our holy sites. But they didn't say, it says in the New Testament, it was given to the Christians. It doesn't say that. Right? But by the Torah it says that. So now, by Gog and Magog, how can the Muslims come and say the Jews don't deserve to be in Israel? They agree, even according to the Quran. It's not about land. It's not about real estate. It's about one thing only. It's about hatred. They want to kill the Jews. Kill as many Jews as you can. Why? Because now we are the chosen one. Because Ishmael was chosen, not Yitzchak. That's what it says in the Quran. So now we are the chosen ones. And as long as they're living, they're challenging us. That's right. And that's why the Pope never came to Israel. Never came to Israel, only in the 80s. Only the 80s was the first time a Pope came to Israel. You know, what happened to the 5 previous popes? They never came to Israel. You know why? Because if they come to Israel, it's them saying, wait a minute, it says in the New Testament that the Jewish people, how I grew up in Spain. The priest would come and this is what he would teach us. The Jews, he didn't know. My brother and I were Jews. This was a private school. But he would say, the Jews are cursed. The Jews are cursed. The Jews killed Christ. That's the first seed of anti-Semitism that was put 2,000 years ago. They started putting it in. Hitler just came and picked up the fruits. They didn't need to invent anything. Christianity did. The Roman Catholic Church did. They took after the Romans. They were the spiritual heirs of Rome. That's why they called the Roman Catholic Church. But Jesus was never in Rome. Why is it called Roman Catholic? Because they took over. And how did they take over? The Romans oppressed us militarily. Now the church is going to oppress us, is going to take over. They're going to oppress us spiritually. Yes. They're going to try and take our souls. They're going to love us to death. They're going to burn us alive. So what did they do? They said, number one, we killed Christ. First lie. Second, we are cursed. Second lie. Bereshit, whoever blesses you will bless, and whoever curses you will curse. They are cursed for cursing us. Number three, we were supposed to disappear from the face of the earth. We're going to wander. Navanad, like Cain, who killed his brother. That's, we killed Christ, so Cain killed his brother, so we killed Christ, who was a Jew. So we're also going to now wander on the face of the earth. All of a sudden, after 2,000 years, Hashem gives us the land. We go back to the land. Right? Another 30 years, Hashem gives us Yerushalayim. We come back to Yerushalayim. There goes their theory. Where's their theory? So they waited, and they waited for the Arabs to try and destroy us. When they saw that the Arabs were not going to destroy us, and they had a bunch of priests molesting kids come out in the open, because they did for thousands of years, but now it's coming up in the open, and the church is not so powerful, and it's under threat because there's too many, they're suing the church all over the place, and they're losing all the property all over the world, and the church is in financial rambles. Let's go to Jerusalem to pay respects. And then they come. This is the truth. Can you imagine? So, Gog Magog, the previous Tehillim, number 2, was about how they were going. But what do you mean? Can the world have the chutzpah to turn against Am Yisrael, against David HaMelech, the anointed one of Hashem, who was anointed by Hashem himself, and the Jewish people, to deny them existence, to deny them their homeland? The answer is yes. Because now you have Avshalom, the son, who is going to rebel against his father. That's why it's juxtapositioned, this Tehillim with the previous one. You follow? You understand? So it's a very important Tehillim, and we have to understand the background of Avshalom before we understand this Tehillim, and how Hashem, and how David is going to put this into words. How is he going to put it into words? The words that he chose, because it's very important that Mizmor le David, and sometimes you have le David Mizmor, right? Le David Mizmor l'Adonai haaretz umlo'ah, and sometimes you have Mizmor le David. What's the difference? It's not by chance. There's a meaning to this. So there's a rule. Whenever the name David comes before Mizmor, so divine inspiration came first, and then the song, which was its outpouring, followed. So whenever it says David, le David Mizmor, means, there was divine inspiration, came to him, and then he put it in a song. But when it's Mizmor le David, means that he was singing, and because of the singing of the music, he couldn't put into words what he was going through because it was too broken. It was sad. So there's no divine inspiration when you're sad. There's no prophecy or Ruach HaKodesh or divine spirit when you're sad. But when you get into the music, right, that inspiration, then you can put it into words. And here, when he heard that his own son wanted to rebel against him and come to kill him and take over, insurrection, right? It was a coup. It was a coup. So when he heard that, then he started singing and trying to put it into words, and then it's Mizmor le David. The Mizmor brings the Ruach HaKodesh to le David. That's the difference, right? So sometimes it was before the song, sometimes it was after the song. It depends. But it says here, the first Tehillim, Mizmor le David, beborcho mipnei Avshalom beno. When he was escaping, beborcho mipnei Avshalom beno, because of Avshalom, his son. Right? Now, Avshalom was the favorite of his sons. His older son was Amnon. right? From a different wife, Amnon. And Amnon, Avshalom had a sister, Tamar. And Amnon, the half-brother, fell in love with Tamar. He fell in love with Tamar. And he raped Tamar. And Avshalom killed Amnon. This is one of the 6 things that happened to David for sinning with Bathsheba. One was that the sword would not depart his own family, meaning to say that one brother would kill a half-brother. Kill him, literally. Another one was this one, that Avshalom would rebel against him, amongst many. But we're not going to get it exactly into Bathsheba and David. We'll get it into Bathsheba and David and the sin of David with Bathsheba when we do the Tehillim where he does teshuvah, when he repents. That's a long Tehillim, and we'll get into that. And that's very deep and very complicated, exactly what happened there. Because, did he sin or didn't he sin? He was punished for the sin, but then the son that he had with Bathsheba, which is Shlomo, King Solomon, the one that eventually becomes the king, the youngest of the 5 pretenders. There were 5 pretenders. Amnon was the oldest, he gets killed. Then comes Avshalom. Then comes, what's his name? Kilav. Kilav was number 2. Kilav, all of a sudden, he disappears. His name is not, all of a sudden disappears from the Bible. We don't know what happened to him. The tradition that we have, that Kilav, it was not sure, because Kilav, the second son of David, was from a widow, and we don't know if she was pregnant from the first husband that died or from David. So he was not in the picture to be the king. It's like a big drama, this whole, about, if you've seen the Game of Thrones and, how the kings worked, and ascendance into the throne was a complicated thing. Then came Avshalom. Avshalom, I don't know if you know the story here, he dies. He gets killed. He was very beautiful and he had long hair, and he is escaping, and the hair gets caught in the tree, and he's thrust with the lance, and he's murdered. He's killed. So he's out of the picture. Then the number 4 is Adoniyahu. Adoniyahu, the 4th son, he also tries to take over. And he almost does. He tries to kill Shlomo HaMelech, King Solomon. David had already sworn that Shlomo would be the king, because Shlomo was the most righteous and the wisest of them. And he was really chosen by Hashem. Natan, the prophet, came to David and said, Shlomo HaMelech, he's the one. This word Shlomo comes from Shalom. He will bring peace and prosperity to Am Yisrael. And truly his reign, the reign of Shlomo HaMelech, was the zenith, the highest point in the Jewish people. The highest point in the Jewish people. He built the Bet HaMikdash. He built the first Bet HaMikdash, the temple. All the nations were afraid of us. They wouldn't wage war. He married many daughters of kings and made many pacts. And Israel was prosperous. It was the best time that we ever had. From Shlomo HaMelech, slowly came the downfall again. 15 generations, the sages say. It's like the moon, The moon is highest in the beginning, then in the 15th, it's small in the beginning, it's high in the 15th, and then it slowly wanes again and becomes small. That's the reign of Shlomo HaMelech, right? And he, in the end, ends up being king. He's the one that is actually, in the end, and Adoniyahu and his plot fails, So we have to look a little bit into the story. So I will tell you from Shmuel Bet, the book of Samuel, in the second book of Samuel. There's two, 1 and 2, the second one. And if you look in chapter 15, that's where Absalom's rebellion. So it says, it happened after this that Absalom prepared for himself. I'm going to read quickly through the English and spare you the grammar. Right? That Absalom prepared for himself a chariot and horses and 50 men to run before him. Absalom would arise early and stand by the way toward the gate. And it happened when any man who would have a dispute to bring to a king for judgment, Absalom called to him and said, "Which city are you from?" And he said, "Your servant is from such and such a tribe of Israel." Then Absalom would say to him, "Look, your words are good and proper, but there is no one before the king to understand you." Then Absalom said, "If only someone would appoint me judge in the land, and any man who had a dispute or judgment could come to me, and I would judge him fairly." And it was that whenever anyone came to him to prostrate himself before him, he would stretch out his hand and take hold of him and kiss him. So Absalom would kiss every person. And then Absalom did this sort of things to all of Israel who would come for judgment to the king. And Absalom, look what it says, Absalom stole the hearts of the men of Israel. That means, like Kamala is doing now. They have like a whole new, they're trying to put a new front to attract the people, all kinds of people, to vote for them, to vote for, you know what I mean? It's like a campaign. So Absalom was doing a campaign to all the people. Before you knew it, all the people were with him. He won the hearts of all the people, right? And he was tall and he was very beautiful. I didn't read you he had long hair. And once a year he would cut his hair. And the women would make all kinds of things from this hair, all kinds of, they would, tapestries and beautiful things. Then Absalom said to the king, to David HaMelech, to his father, "I would like to go now and pay my vow that I made to Hashem in Hebron." It was a lie. "For your servant took a vow when I lived in Geshur in Aram, saying, if Hashem shall return me to Yerushalayim, I shall worship unto Hashem." So now Absalom goes to David HaMelech, his father, and says, because he had a big argument with his father, and he had run away, and his father forgave him and kissed him and brought him back. So now he said, "I want to do a sacrifice for Hashem. I made a neder, so I'm going to go. This is a sacrifice of thanks for bringing me back to Yerushalayim." And David said, "Okay, go in peace." And he went to Hebron. Absalom then sent spies throughout all the tribes of Israel, saying, "When you hear the sound of the shofar, announce." So now Absalom gathered all his people in Hebron. David was in Yerushalayim. Hebron is further away. And he sent spies to everywhere in Yerushalayim and all of Israel, saying, "When you hear the shofar, you say, Absalom has become king." This was the sign. Absalom has become king in Hebron. Absalom went with 200 men from Yerushalayim, who were invited and went along innocently. They didn't know anything of Absalom's intentions. So what he did, he was very smart. The people that he couldn't gain on his side, who were on the side of David, his father, as the king, he invited to this sacrifice that he was doing in Hebron. It was a big to-do. Imagine the prince, the son of the king, he's making a big feast in Hebron. He's making a korban, and there were priests there, and there were all kinds of important people. And he invited the 200 people that he couldn't have brought them near, that were loyal to David, or at least were, in the middle. And then Avshalom sent for Achitophel. Achitophel, the Giloni, David's advisor from his city. David had a main advisor. He was a counselor. You know, all the kings have counselors that tell them what to do, what not to do, you know? So Achitophel was a very smart man, very smart politically. He always advised David the right way. Achitophel went with Avshalom to rebel against David. From this city, from Gilo, when he slaughtered the sacrifices, the conspiration was powerful. And the people with Avshalom continually increased. David HaMelech doesn't know whether this is happening around him. That his own son is gathering momentum and gathering the people to turn against him, to usurp the throne, right? And take over in a coup. But then the bearer of news came to David. And they said, when David heard of it, it was already in the middle of the night. They woke him up and they said, the heart of every man of Israel has turned with Avshalom. David then said to all his servants who were with him in Yerushalayim, get up, arise, and let us flee, for there will be no escape for us from before Avshalom. Hurry to leave, lest he hurry and catch up to us and thrust evil upon us. Of course, Avshalom was already on the way to kill his father and kill the followers of David, those who had remained faithful. And smite the city by the blade of the sword. The king's servant said to the king, whatever the Lord, the king decides, your servants are ready. So the king left and his household went with him. But the king left the 10 concubine wives to keep the house. You know, David HaMelech had 18 wives. He kept 10 to keep the house. Later on, Avshalom rapes them all. Yeah, he was like vicious. So the king left and all the people went with him. They stopped at a faraway house and all his servants passed near him, along with all the archers and slingers and the Gittites, 600 men who had come with him from Gath, passed before the king. And he said to these men, why should you also go with us? Go back and remain with the new king, for you are a foreigner and also an exile. Return to your place. Yeah, David didn't want to take with him too many people. It would slow him down. So he said, you stay. You arrived just yesterday. Shall I displace you today to take flight with us? While I go wherever I go, return and take your brethren back with you. Your offer is kindness and truth. But Ittai answered the king and said, as Hashem lives and by the life of my lord the king, I swear that in whatever place my lord the king will be, whether for death or for life, there your servant will be. These were Goyim, mercenaries, that had stuck with David in the wars, that had become faithful to him, that became prisoners, and he treated them well, and they stayed with David HaMelech, and they converted to Judaism, and they became big tzaddikim. They would not leave David. They said, no, we're not going. We're going with you. We're not going to leave you. And the Jews that were with him, they turned against David. So David was like, he's going to write now in Tehillim about this, David is like, we went into Egypt and we had to have Batya Bat Paro. She was the one that saved. But what do you mean, Batya Bat Paro? Are you kidding? This was the daughter of Hitler. The daughter of Hitler. How could it be? So he said, Hashem has mysterious ways. He has mysterious ways. Now, I don't know if you know, the granddaughter of Himmler married a Jew. And she wants to convert. And Goering's granddaughter also, the main SS people, they want to become Jews, And it says that Haman's grandchildren were learning Torah in Bnei Berak. What do you mean they will learn Haman's? Why is that? Because Hashem wants to let us know that it's what's in the heart of the person. It's what's in the heart of the person. How good the person is. You don't know where that's going to come from. We see now, Doega Edomi, we see other Jews that become Reshaim. People have free will. Many Jews become Tzaddikim. Most of Am Israel is Tzaddikim. Am Israel, Bnei Tzaddikim. But there are some rotten apples. We're not in denial. And the Goyim, most of them, you see the whole world is against us, most of the world. But there's a lot of Goyim that are good people. They have free will. The president of Paraguay now came openly and supported the Jewish people against all the nations. The president of Argentina, came to Israel, went to the Holy Wall, didn't even look at the Palestinians. He wants to become a Jew. Why is Hashem doing that? It's because Hashem is looking for truth. And the truth can be found in the lowest places, So Batya Bat Paro, it was the daughter of Hitler who saved the Mashiach, who saved Moshe Rabbeinu. And Paro is looking to kill Moshe Rabbeinu, and Batya Bat Paro brings Moshe Rabbeinu into the knees of Paro. Sits with Paro and is playing kuchi with him, And all the advisors are saying, hey, you gotta kill the Mashiach because he's your downfall, And this kid is grabbing your crown, You better kill him. He says, you guys crazy, this is my grandson. You know why that is? Because you think that evil, is going to attack goodness, right? So evil doesn't succeed. No, Hashem doesn't want to do that. Hashem is deeper than that. He's going to say, evil is going to destroy goodness, but I will take evil and use it for the opposite of what he wants to do. And it's going to save the goodness. And now we had one of the main guys in Iran, the main generals, he was a spy for Israel. He said that, how can it be? That's crazy. Those guys are so fanatic, Allahu Akbar the whole way and the whole thing. But it wasn't just one. I thought, okay, the Israelis, listen, they had that missile and it went from one building to another building and they knew which room he was in and they were looking when he went into the shower. When he went into the shower, boom, they knew exactly where he was. They say his bodyguard was in the shower with him, which makes you think exactly what was going on there. But that's another issue. But they had precise details and intelligence. How could they do that? So I was thinking, the Israelis, there's something, They must have had some guys there working, Maybe in the hotel, in the dorm, in the apartment building. They must have known something, some simple guys. And then you find out that the main general, he's the one working for Israel. The main guy. The main guy in the Iranian army is working for the Mossad. This is unbelievable. His name, I'll tell you after the shiur, I'll look him up for you. It was in the big news, his picture and everything. Really, yeah. So too, you say, what do you mean? Batya Bat Paro. I said, yeah, Batya Bat Paro. Well, but she's the daughter, yeah. But she was an unbelievable woman. She went down to the river. What did she go down to the river for? Chachamim tell us, she wanted to convert. She wanted to become Jewish. So she went to the Leviim, and they said, listen, I want to become Jewish. The Leviim said to her, listen, are you crazy? Get out of here. You're putting us all in danger. They're going to kill us all. No, please, I want to be Jewish. I want to know the God of Israel. Where did you hear these things from? I heard, I want to. No, go away. You're going to kill us all. No, but tell me, what do you do to be Jewish? Go away. please. So she asked 3 times. So he said, you have to go into the sea, into a river. Go in by yourself, under the river, completely. And then think of Hashem, and you'll be Jewish. So that's it. So a few days later, she goes. And Hashem says, oh my gosh, this woman is unstoppable. She really is for real. Unbelievable. So Hashem says, okay, that's not where it's going to end. This woman is really unbelievable. She's going to be the mother of the Mashiach. She's going to save Mashiach. I'm going to use her now. I'm going to use it against evil. See what he has a sense of humor. Hashem says, I'm going to turn the whole thing upside down. They're killing the babies because they want to kill Moshe. I'm going to use Paro's daughter to save the baby and put it on Paro's knees, and Paro's going to bring him up. And he's not going to even realize. Right under his nose, Mashiach is going to grow. And that's what happened. You see? So now, David and Avshalom is the same thing. David realizes this. That before, who had to run away? Who had to run away before? The first one that had to run away. Who was the first one? Yaakov. Yaakov had to run away from Esav because Esav wanted to kill him. No? But what happened in the end? Wow, Yaakov he wouldn't have had the 12 Shevatim if he didn't run away. Right? So David said, wait a minute. Yaakov ran away. Esav wants to kill him. That night he sleeps. He's also going to sleep now. He's going to talk about that. He goes to sleep. He's not afraid that he's going to come in the middle of the night. Even though Achitophel says to Avshalom, go now. Now. He's going to be sleeping. Go now and kill him. David is going to pray, please confuse Achitophel. Confuse his advice. And another advisor comes, Hushim. And he says to Avshalom, no. If you go now, they're going to lay in trap for you. Do it in the day. Wait for him in the morning. You have too many people. He can't run that far away. You'll catch him in the morning. And he listens to Hushim. There was a mistake. Right. But David says, wait a minute. Yaakov ran away. And because he ran away, in the beginning it was terrible. But he meets Rachel. And he cries. And he kisses Rachel. And he cries. And then he meets Leah. And he's there for 14 years. And finally he has the family, Am Israel. And he comes back, and then Esav forgives him. Right? And it's a great beracha, great blessing for Yaakov. Who was the second one that ran away? Who was the second one? Moshe. Moshe runs away. Moshe, they find out that he killed the Egyptian. Right? He kills the Egyptian. And he runs away. And he runs away, and he runs away. And where does he go? He goes to Ethiopia. 60 years in Ethiopia. There's a whole story there about Moshe. And finally Moshe comes to Midian when he's 81. He has to again run away from Ethiopia. That's a whole story in itself, what he does for those 60 years. We'll do it one time. Then he meets Hashem in the sneh, in the burning bush. And then he's chosen as the Mashiach. So David says it was a good thing for him to escape. And who was also, before those two, there was somebody else. Who was it? Abraham. Abraham escaped from Nimrod. Nimrod wanted to kill him. Nimrod threw him to the fire. And Avraham Avinu survived. Right? What do you mean he survived? He walked through the fire. And then they all ran away, but Nimrod went after him and he ran away. And then Avraham Avinu came back and he was a big beracha. So now David is realizing, wait a minute. You know, the tzaddikim, when they see suffering, they take it with serenity. Because they say, you know, I deserve this. But I'm going to pay my debt. It's like you pay a debt, you know? You owe money or you owe a debt. Like the Midrash says, it's like a farmer, you know? He gets up for 2 weeks and he's farming. He takes all the wheat and he's sweating, 2 weeks. Then he takes all that produce and pays it as a debt. And he's happy. They say, why are you happy? You were 2 weeks working like an animal and now you gave it all away, you have nothing. He says, yes, but I'm clean. I'm clean. The righteous, David, he was very calm because he knew that now he was paying for the sin of Bathsheba. He was getting cleansed so he could go to sleep tranquil. And the same for us. When we see that we have a tragedy, trauma, we have the choice. But you should know that, okay, I'm paying for something. It's good. It's good. Whilst you're going through the suffering, have this in mind. You will suffer. But my teacher used to say, Hashem's soap, every soap you go into the shower, if it goes in your eyes, ooh, if you use Dr. Bronner's and you have a little cut or a little scrape, ooh, it burns, He said, Shlomo, my teacher used to say, but the soap of Hashem, it cleans so good. It cleans so good. And you're going through the suffering, but at the same time, you have the serenity of knowing that you're paying back. I'm clean. Whatever I did, I paid back. We'll see you next week, right?